Thanks for having me. I haven't been among that many people in about 2 years. I'm somewhere between mental breakdown, freak out, and panic attack, which is why I have this slide. So, yes, so I haven't been on stage in forever. I hope I'm not speaking too fast. I task Anders with waving at me if my word speed hits like a limit. Yes, so I'm going to talk about product today. So we've heard a lot about delivering, how getting stuff to our customers or our users faster. But what I want to talk to you about today is like how to figure out what that stuff actually is. So a quick slide about myself, my claim to fame. You can find me on Twitter and all the social networks with this handle. I've been around the industry for like almost 15 years now. I used to be like a really shitty programmer, and then I became a mediocre interaction designer, and now I'm actually doing product, which is much more fun and much more exciting and also much more difficult. Yes, so breathe. What is product thinking? So this is a quote from an article by Julie Zhou on the Andreessen Horowitz website. So I put this with like, take this with a grain of salt or a bucket of salt. It's a bit gatekeepy. But there are two main takeaways from this article. So one is skills can be developed. You're not born with a product head or a product thinking ability or product sense. And if you are shipping products regularly, you probably already have that product sense. But you kind of like, at least that is how it felt to me in the beginning, it's like you miss some sort of framework, or like, I hesitate to call it framework because that sounds prescriptive, but some sort of boundaries around your thinking and some sort of process to go through those stages. And I also would like to say that it's worth defining now the term product really broadly. So it can be anything like an internal service or an open source project or any kind of organizational capability that you're developing. As long as it's used by someone, I would think that that matters. And this kind of thinking is going to help you actually build something that is useful and that people want. So this is what I'm going to talk about today. What is product discovery as opposed to product delivery? Because there's a lot of jargon in these areas, and if you don't understand the jargon, you'll be constantly confused. How the discovery can be done in practice, and how all of this fits together in the broader picture of where we operate as teams and individuals in larger organizations, small, big, different types of things. So this talk is primarily about how to find out what to deliver at high velocity. Yes, so I said that before, like I hesitate to call things frameworks because that sounds prescriptive, and there's no one way to do this right. So what I'm trying to do with this product, with this presentation, is to give you like a broad overview over the modern product management process. And what you call it in the end doesn't really matter if you call it design thinking or product sense or whatever you want to do with it. You will have to mold it to your personal circumstances. But the point is, it's supposed to help you achieve this one single goal, which is like make something that people want. And if you're working in a startup, like I did before, it's like make something that people want is basically your line to survival, because then they will pay you. If they don't pay you, you die. So, sounds easy, it's not. Okay, so, jargon. Start with the easy one. Delivery. So I would assume that most of you know what delivery is and how it looks in practice. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, obviously. But basically what this means is like we're in execution mode. So we're building and shipping software, assuming you work in software, to our customers. This is where there is very little uncertainty. So it's basically, you know what to build, you know who it's for, you know why you're building it and why they should buy it, you just do it. But then there's a step before that, which is the discovery phase of it, which is where I want to spend most of this time. So, quick show of hands. Who in this room is consciously, regularly involved in any kind of activity to figure out what problems your customers have, what needs they have, and which ones are worth solving? Anyone? Excellent. So, this is what discovery is, right? So essentially, we're trying to figure out where to aim our efforts and why, and where not to aim our efforts. Very important. So we need to find out the pains, and then we need to find out which of them present opportunities, because not all pains are worth solving, and not all pains are even viable to solve. So, and then we move on to, I should press this. Yes, all right. So, and then this is divided into opportunity discovery, which is just what I talked about now. And then the next step is basically finding out what the solution is to those particular problems, which are the opportunities that we want to tackle. All right, so let's take a closer look at these. Usually in opportunity discovery, we start with a very high degree of uncertainty, which means that we don't really know which pain we should tackle to create the most value for whom. So I can give you an example. In my home, we order a week's worth of groceries about every weekend, more or less, because like the logistics of a family is complicated and is convenient. But before I can do that, we need to decide what we're going to eat. So I'm one of these people who writes lists for dinners for the week. But what do I do? How do I decide what I'm going to make? Or it's not just me, like what we're going to make. So I personally, because I care about this, have a collection of my go-to food bloggers that I go through. They all publish a weekly menu on their website usually. So what I do then is like I look at the menu, and these they fit together. So you use like half a cauliflower in that recipe and half a cauliflower in the other recipe. Bear with me here, I'm having a point. So I then write that list and transfer it over to the grocery delivery company website, which I'm not going to name. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Which is clunky, takes a lot of time. I forget stuff. It's error prone, right? So I don't like doing this. It annoys me every week. I feel a pain there every week, and I would really like this to be solved in a different way. Now, is that a good opportunity for them? I have no idea. Maybe it's just my problem. I suspect it's not. It's probably more people who have this problem. Will it increase their bottom line because these people are ordering more things on their store as opposed to forgetting it and then going to the Kiwi around the corner? I don't know. They would have to find that out. So this is the kind of thing that is happening in this phase, where we try to figure out which are the best opportunities for us to tackle. So maybe my food blogger idea is great, so please implement this. Thank you. I will be thankful. I'm pilot testing this. Yes, so once we have that, we move on to the next phase, which is the solution discovery. So at that point, we kind of understand what the problem is, and we also know what to tackle first. I'm going to talk about prioritization a bit down the road. But we don't really know like what is the best solution, where should we start, and how should we start there. So we usually start with a bunch of ideas and hypotheses that we generate in some form or other. We're also going to talk about that a bit later. And then we pick the one that is the most promising, right? So how do we validate that the idea is actually sound and if that solution solves somebody's problem or not, in the way that we want it to be solved? So how that, which one is the most promising is very context dependent. So I can't tell you like go for these or go for those. It can be all kinds of things, but things like most bang for the buck. It could be the hypothetically closest solution to the ideal end state. Or it could be something that is like really easy to just get out the door, test, validate, experiment on. All right, so now I want to let that we have the jargon and the phases out of the way. I want to go a bit more into the practicalities of how you can do this. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is you need a goal or a desired outcome. So because otherwise just generating ideas and hypotheses and opportunities is not going to help you figure out where to start because you don't know where you want to go. If you are struggling with that, so this is like where you have to start. Let's assume you're working in a functional organization. Usually the company has something that it wants to achieve in this cycle. So it can be a quarter, a year, half a year, depending on the size of the operation. I would think that Visma has like 5-year plans. So if your company knows how to set goals, you probably have a goal in your department or in your team or in your area of where you work. And that desired outcome that you're trying to tackle now, like in front of your nose, should obviously be related to that outcome. Right? Because otherwise you're moving into different directions and that's going to be messy at best. And then you need to pick a metric that you want to improve next. I don't want to talk a lot about metrics here because that's a whole different presentation. But it's really important to understand the difference between a lagging indicator, which is like, I want to have 10 new customers by the end of the quarter, which is lagging. So you look past, did I make it? Yes, no. And a leading indicator, which is like, I have to have 15 demo meetings this month to be able to hit the quota at the end of the quarter, which lets you adjust the direction on the way. So this is important because otherwise you will not be able to discover good opportunities. Yes, so quick show of hands. Who has read or heard about one or more of these techniques before? Yes, so it's neither new nor secret nor specifically like revealing. Next question, who has done or participated in their own activities around this yet? Yeah, nice, nice. So how this usually works is like, ideally you start at the data, which is qualitative. So you use that to build your hypotheses. And then you move on to figuring out what is really going on. So if you have analytics data, for example, for your product, you will be able to see how your users behave in your product, but you don't know why. So then you have to build hypotheses and see if you can figure out why that happens. Surveys usually help somewhere in the middle there to define what could be the reason. But to actually figure it out, you have to talk to people. There's no way around this. There's also no secret to this. What I have seen is that a lot of this just takes practice. So in the beginning, your interviews will be poop, and you have to do them like over and over again. But you get better at this with practice. So I really encourage everybody to just like even talk to your in-house customers. And then there's obviously a lot of knowledge inside our own teams, because we know our product, we know the area of our product, we usually also know our customers. So there's like some brainstorming and discussions and debating that is usually very useful to do at either each of those stages, as long as you know what you want to find out, because just brainstorming for the sake of brainstorming is usually terrible. And then in the next step, now let's say we have like brought up all these opportunities and good ideas where we think there would be pains and things that we would like to explore further. We start prioritizing this. There's a lot of frameworks that try to turn prioritization into some kind of science-y, fake science, data-driven thing. I don't believe in any of this. I think it's an illusion. I mean, you need to be data-informed, but prioritization is actually more of an art, because there's a lot of tacit knowledge that the team has, that you have, that comes with the experience in the field, and that makes you do those decisions. obviously, your product boundaries should be guiding you. So I assume that this food delivery, grocery delivery service I mentioned earlier will not suddenly start branching out into catering. Even though that solves my food problem or dinner problem, it doesn't fit into their business. And then in this prioritization phase, I have seen a lot of times where this overthinking happens because you're not certain. There is no real 100% certainty what's the right one. But there's a lot of intuition that goes into this, which is like what makes this into an art, which is usually the result of experience, but that we don't tend to trust. We don't have numbers on this. But if you do play your cards right in terms of solution shape or what you actually start to deliver to your customers afterwards, it's really easy to reverse the mistakes that you make here in this stage, because you're not shipping like 3-month projects, I hope, usually. Not in this world. But it's like smaller things. So if you see like, oh, we should have tackled the other thing before, you haven't wasted a ton of time. Sorry. All right, I'm missing emoji there. All right, so, and then it's about discovering solutions. Again, that's where you start like actually having the discussions in the teams, because you have to decide on what you want to solve. So if we talk about all these team exercises that programmers also do, like the pair programming or mob programming, when it comes to figuring out, thank you, what to solve, this falls into a similar bucket. It just needs some water. This sometimes can be difficult because we are all very fast to find a solution, to pick one and to stick with it. So instead of just like jumping to the first conclusion and say like, well, this is a problem that we can solve with this thing, it's worth phrasing it around like, how might we solve a specific problem? So as an example, back to my groceries and my meal plans. Instead of saying like, we should get the food bloggers integrated with our platform, which is a prescriptive solution, to make this brainstorming session easier or like get more solutions on the table, you can ask like, how might we make it easier for our customers to plan their week's meals in order and order all the ingredients in one go? Because that is kind of like focusing the discussion around the problem rather than the first solution that comes up. And then obviously part of that is like prototyping and proof of concepts to just understand what needs to go into a solution before you can actually pick one to start with. And then we move on to trying out different solutions, which is like, I'm not going to talk about this. This horse has been beaten to death. I think everybody knows this now. If you don't, there's plenty of resources on the internet. You can probably Google this. There's no shame in Googling. Anyway, but it's like what it boils down to is like more uncertainty, more focus on learning. If you have certainty, you just do it. One important thing here, though, that I want to mention is it's really, really easy to skip over this phase of looking at all the opportunities and prioritizing the ones that are the most important and the most promising ones. Because this is actually where your product strategy happens. So the things that you pick and the things that you decide not to pick, they are setting the direction for your product, for your team, for your quarter cycle, whatever you want to call this, that has an impact for a longer period of time. Because it's going to be weird to be moving around there. So don't skip this and actually spend some time there to really understand the problem and opportunity space before you jump into the solution space. One thing that I do want to mention here, though, is that whenever we talk to customers or our in-house domain experts, they tend to communicate in solutions. So they tell you what they want, as in like a specific feature. It's usually not what you should do. So really use that time there to actually figure out what is going on. Even though we all kind of like jump to solving the problems first, because that's like what we do. Yes. So I think this is important because we're talking about culture, right? So the DevOps movement is about a cultural change, and we heard what Mike said this morning, and about Wismar, like how all of these big differences or changes have made an actual impact on organizations. And this is very similar to this, because once we know what we're building, why we're building, what we're building, we can just like, our work is like very different, has a different quality. And once we have all the roles on the teams, and we have the autonomy to do our own discovery and delivery as we please, again, we can operate in this truly autonomous way. Also, because accountability is built in, because we're committing to actually achieving an outcome, which is like, it goes back to the metric and the desired outcome that I mentioned earlier. And we can measure it. So we can see, like, did we reach this? No, okay, so we have to keep iterating over our solutions and prioritize maybe different opportunities to get to where we want to go. Practically speaking, scoping is way easier because we know what is important and what is not, and for whom, and which kind of customer we care about most at this point. And we can keep discovering problems, opportunities, solutions as we go along because we own the entire space. It's not something that is like handed over from one organizational part to another. I would hope that most companies, or like a lot of companies, operate this way at this point. I have worked in a lot of companies that do not. So now I want to give you like a practical sort of thing that you can use. Again, it kind of pulls all of this together I've talked about right now because it's very abstract and very high level, and I want to like drag it down to a bit more relatable things. So, and one of these techniques is an opportunity solution tree. Who has used that before? Nice, so there's something new. It's not complicated. It's a mapping technique. Has anyone used impact maps? Okay, one lonely person. It's very similar. Impact maps are more complicated, in my opinion, because they introduce the concept of actors, which is like your customers. But you can just ignore this for now. Yes, so it's a technique that has been invented, devised, coined by Teresa Torres. She has a fantastic book out there, which is called Continuous Discovery. I can really recommend this. I have a bunch of resources on the last slide. Yes, and then you use a tool like Mural or Miro to do this because they already have templates for it, and you spare yourself the time to build all of this. Basically, what it is a very neat way to visualize all the stuff that I've just talked about. All right, so I have this thing. It's probably terrible. This is impossible to read. Give me a second. I find my mouse. There. All right, so now I can't see what I'm doing, but all right, let's move this. This is Miro, by the way. It's very nice. So at the top we have the desired outcome, right? Which is something that we want to achieve while we're at it. It can be like, if you work in sprints or in batches or whatever it is you call it, like in a time box manner, this is what you set for that time box. And from that you derive the opportunities. That can be as many as you want. It can be 3. It's like, I just picked 3 because it's easier. And then you can branch out into different solutions and devise a bunch of experiments. That's all there is to it. It's not black magic, it's not complicated. Also, solutions can be obviously way more than 3. It just looks nice with 3. So we're gonna now play this thing like this. All right, so desired outcome. I have been thinking about finding something that is relatable. Now it's winter, so I'm tired, right? So let me turn this into a sticky note. It's yellow. So I'm going to say, like, I want to feel more energized. That's my desired outcome. Typo. This is really difficult. All right, there we go. So I move this here. Zip. Now, what would be the opportunities I could pursue to achieve this goal? The most obvious one is I could probably sleep more. Oh, this is very annoying. Come on. I hear rumors about exercise also helping. If someone could confirm this to me, I would be interested. It does? I'm not buying it. Okay. I cure everything with food and naps. Okay. And then another one might be reducing stress. Okay. So now we can look at these opportunities. And if you're like me, you say exercise, let's try something else first. Reduce stress might be outside of my control, so I'll shelve that for now. Also, it's complicated. It could be all kinds of things, right? Like what kind of stress is very not specific. So I can decide to maybe do some more research around this, what causes the stress and how can I possibly reduce it. But for now, let's start with the easy one, that is get more sleep. Presumably easy one. There are different solutions to this. So, what? Yes. For example, sounds hard, like I could get to bed more early, or let's put it this way, like to make it a real solution, like get myself on a more regular sleep cycle. So like not go to bed at 1 on the weekend and sleep until 11 and then have to get up at 6 on Monday again. It's a bad idea. That's what I've learned. So, okay, so yes, so that means I get back to bed early. Let's say like in bed by 11, or sleep by 11, I should probably say. Another experiment that I can try, because I have to say this is an experiment. I don't know if I even can do this, sleep by 11. I'm quite not that confident. And up by 7 the next day, every day. Yes, I know. I'm not a morning person. 7 is early. Another experiment might be maybe if I sleep by 11, up by 7.
Don't look at your cell phone after 9.
That's an excellent, yes, okay. No fubbing in bed. I'm guilty of this, actually. All right, so we could try this, right? And then what's another solution that we could possibly think of? I'm not sure that's going to help my sleep schedule. I know I could try to not have an alarm clock, yeah, but that might make it difficult to be up by 7. I could probably try and let's say I sleep with an open window, so I improve my bedroom hygiene. Typing is not, today is not my day of typing. All right. Almost. There we go. Anyway, so you get my drift, right? So this is how you fill this out, and then you can pick the different experiments based on the solutions that you would like to explore first, right? So you say like, oh, getting onto a regular sleep routine sounds difficult enough, let's start there. Or you devise several other solutions to move to that place. And what is interesting about this is that you can do this at all sizes, right? So if you think about a larger organization, like maybe not Visma large, but larger, so where you can still see these things, you can layer them on top, right? So like, what's the opportunity for this one specific or this specific team? Might be they might see that as a desired outcome, or turn it into a desired outcome, and you can layer those on top, on top, on top, on top, until you actually eventually reach the company goal that is on the top of this, and it trickles down into the organization. If you work like that. You don't have to work like that. There are plenty of other ways of trickling down goals in a company and picking like what is most important. Yes. Let me see. All right. So these are my fallback slides, so I'm going to skip past them. Conclusion. So I just want to do a quick recap. So product thinking is a skill that you can develop and that you can refine over time with practice and deliberation, like most things. Product sense comes with experience. If you have a lot of experience, you probably have a lot of product sense. You just need to cultivate it in the right terms so that you can use it and get value out of this. And you have to start by defining your desired outcome. If you skip that step, everything else will be way more difficult, and nothing of this will really make sense in practice because you don't understand what you're trying to do. I've tried this. I've been like, it doesn't work. And then please don't skip straight to the problem solving, even though it is extremely tempting to do that because it feels like we are in control and this is what we do best, we solve problems. But defining the problem before you solve it is always a worthy exercise. And if you want like true autonomy in the places you work, you should ask for a goal, accept the accountability that comes with it, and then just run with it. I don't think you can have autonomy without actually owning the entire space and also being responsible for the outcome that is out of it. Yes, and that's all I got. So I will publish my slides. And as everybody says, I also have to say that we're hiring, we're fully remote. So if you want to talk to me about like nice ways of working, slide into my DMs, please, in a non-creepy way. Or talk to me over lunch. I hear it's food now. Thank you.